video is going to be about every single plant that I have bought from ECUAGENERA. I have a number of plants obviously behind me that I want to share with you, and I want to talk about my experience, the care for them, customer service, and the cost, and basically everything in between. So let's get started. I want to start with customer experience for ECUAGENERA because I have two facets for that to talk about. In general, I have not had any type of customer service issue with ECUAGENERA, and that's from going in person to getting plants and online. And the only minor issue that I had, which it wasn't even an issue, it was when I ordered, I think it was my Anthurium Queens, they had sent me an email and said that like they didn't receive my payment or something. And when I purchased plants through the website on ECUAGENERA, I used PayPal. So the money had already came out of my account. So I'm like, well, I know you got it because it came out of my account. So I just sent them a picture of my invoice and they emailed me right back and they were like, oh, we got it. Everything's good. That was it. So as far as that experience went, it was perfectly fine and it wasn't really a big issue. As for in person, the experience of going to an ECUAGENERA pop-up was something that I've never done before. I don't really go to pop-up events really that often, and I've never been to one for plants. So the one I went to was in Houston in April of 2022, and the event was held at a small shop. It was actually in like this little complex. So me and a few other planty people pulled up and there was a line. There was a long line. So if you've never been to a pop-up, expect a long line. Get there early if you want to have first dibs on really nice, inexpensive, fancy plants. So we waited in line, and as we are getting closer and approaching, they let a couple of people in at a time, like kind of like one in, one out. Not necessarily one person, but like small groups. It wasn't like a free-for-all where you could just, everybody was in there and it was madness. It wasn't like Black Friday or anything like that. So once you go in, they had the plants displayed, and this is just at the shop that we were at. It was basically like this big like U shape, and then there was like a bunch in the middle, and there was some like kind of towards the front. So it was kind of like surrounding the edges, but you had a really clear walkway to basically dig through these boxes of plants. And when you get the plants, they're in these like big plastic bags, and the plants are flat. If you've never imported plants at all, when you get them, generally the plants are flattened, and that's not a bad thing. It's just easier to ship that way. So the plants are flattened, the prices are on the plants, so you know what it's gonna cost and you know exactly what the plant is. Now, going in person versus buying online, as much as I liked going in person, to me, it's kind of more convenient to get it online because you're just kind of like, this is the plant I'm looking for, especially if you know what you're looking for. You're like, this is the one I'm looking for, this is the one I want. Click, order, you get it. So it will cost more when you're getting it online because you have to take into account shipping. And that's really the only downfall for me. It's not really a downfall, it's just the name of the game. When you're ordering something online, you're likely going to pay for shipping no matter what the cost is. There isn't any like threshold. If you spend $100, you get free shipping. It's not like that at all. And then in person, it's like you're getting exactly the plant that you're looking for. So if that is something that's way more important to you than like the convenience, then I would say try to find a pop-up that is near your area. They have pop-ups all over the place. I'm pretty sure they have international pop-ups too. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they do. And they have them pretty much all the time. So there's likely one that's at least within a couple of hours of you. But if there isn't, then you can totally get these plants online. If you are going to order offline, another thing you want to keep in mind is that they only ship out, I think it's twice a month from the USA, because these plants are imported from South America into Florida and then shipped out into the United States. I'm pretty sure it's only twice a month. It's not like you order it and then it's shipped the next day. So it is a longer wait period in between ordering and getting the plants. but it's honestly, like, once you order it, you're so excited, and once they come, you'll be totally fine. Okay, we're gonna go through the plants that I have bought, and I want to go from the oldest to the newest plant. The first one that I'm going to talk about is the Anthurium forgetii. I got this plant for $65, and I did get this at the pop-up in Houston last year. So I have had it almost a year. It'll be a year, April 18th. That is when I bought this plant. I just looked it up on my phone. So I've had this plant for a year. And the Anthurium forgetii was a plant that I always wanted, but I just didn't know what to expect, I guess, with it. It wasn't my first Anthurium, but it was obviously one that I've never had before. So the thing about Anthuriums is they need humidity. And sometimes I really fumble the bag with my humidity, and I'm very on and off, and like I won't fill my humidifier, and I'll just be lazy sometimes. And Anthuriums, they don't really like that. So if high humidity, not high, but probably higher than average humidity is a struggle for you, then I would try to find ways to work with that. I have found that if I have a bigger humidifier and I don't have to fill it up as often, that works a lot as well. I also don't run my humidifier 24/7. I just run it during the day. And I recently got a new humidifier because my old one broke, and I actually hate it, and I'm going to return it and get something else. But that is something that you can do if you want to get into Anthuriums and you want to increase the humidity. There are also other options to increase humidity if you just look them up online. I just prefer the humidifier because it's the most set it and forget it option, even though I tend to forget it a lot more than I set it, but I promise I am getting better. Another thing about the Anthurium forgetii that I didn't really know much about is that it does grow slower. It had a growth spurt last summer. It was amazing. Then it kind of had a little lull, and then it flowered, and I did not do what I needed to do with that. I didn't collect the pollen. I kind of just, I don't know, I just let it do its thing. The flower died off, and I just recently got a new leaf on it. I don't think you can see it in here, but you will see a close-up. It's right there. That's the new leaf. I'm very excited for it, and I'm hoping that it's going through another growth spurt for the summer, and I will be happy to share with you. But I have this in my in my semi-hydro method where I do moss and then perlite and leca at the bottom, and then I just house it in a water reservoir. So I keep the water in the bottom part of the container. I think the plant is generally fairly happy, and I'm excited to continue to watch it grow. Next up is the Anthurium regale. I got this plant on the same day as I got the Anthurium forgetii. The regale is one that I was not going to buy. Like, I only went to get the forgetii. That was the one I wanted, and I just happened to see the regale. Somebody had come up to the table as I was paying. I think it was one of the workers, and they were like, oh, somebody put this back, and they just laid it down. And I looked at it, and I was like, Anthurium regale, I've heard of that. And it said $40, and I was like, I think that's a really good deal because the cost of Anthurium regale is actually pretty high the last time I checked, which was when I got this plant last year. And I just got it on a whim, and I kind of had a love-hate relationship with this plant as well. When I first got it, the leaves were perfect. Everything was perfect. It was beautiful. And then it wasn't. All of those old leaves basically crusted off. I only have one of the original. Actually, I don't have any of the original leaves. They all died off, and new ones were growing, but they were kind of crusty. They weren't really that fabulous. They were kind of ripped off. So that was disappointing to me. And then the last two leaves have been amazing, as you can see. And I'm so excited to watch this plant grow. And I'm hoping I can get the leaves to be absolutely enormous, because I've seen some enormous ones and I just think they look so amazing. So something else that I kind of lack in, especially with my semi-hydro, which this plant is in, is using my nutrients for my plants. I use FloraGrow because I bought the system. It's like $35, and that's generally what I used. But I feel like in the last few weeks, I've kind of just been so, I don't know, not neglectful to my plants, but I've just been, I don't know, lazy. lazy. I don't want to say lazy. I don't want to beat myself up about it, but I don't know. I've just been feeling it's been feeling lackluster when I take care of my plants, and I need to be better about just watering them with the FloraGrow. And yeah, I just haven't been doing it as much. And I feel like I haven't been paying attention to my plants as much. And I want to like help them get better and bigger. And that only happens usually if I'm consistent with my care. And I don't know, just like the last 2 weeks, I've just been like maybe like 3 weeks. I just have not been on my game like I have been the last couple of months. But we can always have a glow up with our plants. We can always come back to them. They're always going to be there for us. So something else with the Anthurium regale that I want to do is along the stem, I have like some little aerial roots that are kind of like popping out. And I kind of want to do an air layering method with them. Just wrap moss around them and wrap plastic wrap and see what we can do. I don't know if I'm ready to propagate any of my Anthuriums. I've never done it. And I think I'm more scared to do it because I'm like, what if it dies and then I just ruin this perfectly beautiful leaf? The only plant that I kind of feel a little bit secure, like that I feel confident doing, is my crystallium, which I may do in the future. By the future, I mean the next couple of weeks while everything is excited to grow. But I don't like doing it when a new leaf is coming in, so I have to like wait to that perfect sweet spot of in between it's growing, or the new leaf has come and there's not a new leaf yet that's popped out. So that's what the future holds. I was not recording.
Bruh.
The next 3 plants that I'm going to talk about are the Anthurium Queens. So I ordered these on October 3rd.
On October 3rd, he asked me what day it was. It's October 3rd.
Got them on October 20th. And for all 3 of these plants, they cost me $80 plus the cost of shipping. And the Anthurium Queen is one of the plants that I've always wanted. It's a dream plant. I've wanted this plant for years and years and years and years and years, but I never got one because they were so expensive, and they still generally are expensive. But I saw this deal for these 3 queens on the ECUAGENERA bundle website. On TikTok, Plant Guy Jacob had posted about them, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go check this out. Ordered the plants, got the plants, was super excited. And I was also very nervous because, like I've said a little bit before, Anthuriums are kind of tricky, but I knew basically like a lot of people always say the Anthurium Queen is just the most tricky plant. So I was very nervous about that. So I have had these plants since October 20th. So November, December, January, February, March, 5 months. And in that time, they have become crusty, but they have also grown new leaves. And they're all in drainless potting. And one of the biggest reasons that I did that is because I know they like to be moist and I didn't want to overdo it. And sometimes soil scares me. And I think actually all of my Anthuriums are not in soil. I don't think I have a single Anthurium in soil. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but soil tends to scare me. I've just had more trouble with soil, especially when it comes to like pests, because you want to keep the soil moist. So I feel like it's easier with the semi-hydro method to do that. But the Anthurium Queen, I mean, this was the first new leaf that I got. And it is a little cut off at the end, but it's basically perfect to me. I love it. And this is the large one, and it actually has another new leaf about to come out. And along the stem, I can see the aerial roots are kind of like there, so that may be something else I want to do in air layering with that one. So that's the big one. The medium one is pretty ugly. That first new leaf that popped out, it's so bizarre, especially because I generally don't unfurl leaves. I think I've done it like 3 or 4 times in my life. And the reason I don't do it is because I just think I'll rip them. So I didn't do it, and I see that it's kind of like ripped, but there's really nothing else I can do. And I have a little bit of an issue with the medium-sized one. I kind of accidentally, I didn't intentionally do this, but I kind of buried the plant a little bit more in the moss than I meant to, and that's something that I feel like may be inhibiting the growth of that new leaf when it's coming out, because it kind of has to work its way through the moss. And I am thinking about repotting it, just basically taking off that moss that's kind of right around the stem, because my big Anthurium, I don't have it like that. It's not buried very deeply, and I think removing that top layer of moss around where the new leaf is growing would absolutely help this plant. Hopefully we have a new leaf growing under there. I don't know, because I haven't looked. And yeah, so the small one, the seedling, is kind of chilling. I do tend to have to like water it a lot because it's in a very small glass jar. I want to upgrade the container, but I don't really want to buy any more glass because I just don't want to have to deal with that when I move. So I'll need to find some alternative option, which will likely be an orchid container, and just either housing it in a plastic container, something cheap from IKEA, or honestly just putting it in a saucer tray can also be another option. Because right now, a lot of my plants, I've been thinking about this lately, a lot of the ways that I have my plants, I don't know, I feel like I'm so ready to leave this place that I really don't have an interest in displaying my plants. I know I said last year that was like one of my goals, like one of my planty goals, but once the idea of moving really is like in my brain, it's almost like I kind of gave up on it. And I'm just so anticipating this move so that I'm able to have more of a display of my plants and hanging my plants from the ceiling and all this stuff. It's like I have the itch to do it, but I don't want to do it here. I feel like my time is up here. I'm ready to go. And that's why I'm not really too concerned with the way the containers are. So that's the update on the Anthurium Queens that I've had for 5 months. I do love it, and I think they're really pretty, and hopefully we can get at least 1 or 2 more big gorgeous leaves from these plants before I move, because Anthuriums are probably the plant that I'm most worried about moving. And the last 3 plants from ECUAGENERA are my most recent plants. I ordered them December 16th and I got them January 12th. And the reason why I ordered these was because there was a sale on ECUAGENERA. They tend to have pretty good deals. If you're in the market and you're looking for unique, rare plants that you generally don't see in the stores, they are really good prices in my opinion. And yeah, let me get into these 3 plants. I will have to look up the price though. The first plant is the Philodendron El Choco Red. That was $33.75. The Philodendron Columbia was $26.25. And then the Philodendron Verrucosum too was $21.75. And I just realized I do not have that plant in here. Let me go grab that for you. So I'll talk about the verrucosum first. I mean, what?
The woman was too stunned to speak.
Yeah, so this was actually one of my wish list plants. I'm very happy with it. I was kind of nervous when I first got it because it was really crumpled up. And I was like, this is going to be a nightmare, because every verrucosum I've had in the past has been absolutely terrible. But this plant has continued to surprise me. I do have it in the drainless method. And yeah, I just recently switched out this pole. It's a little bit, it's a little bit heavy. It's 6 feet though. The previous one was 3 feet. So it has grown that much in the last 2 months. 2 months. And I mean, I'm just astonished by the growth, because I felt like this one was going to be the most finicky, the most trouble out of all of the plants that I've imported, because I've never imported this plant. I've gotten it from people locally, so maybe that's the trick, to import some of the plants instead of buying them locally. I don't know. But it just keeps growing, and I think my next plan of action would be to repot this into a shorter container, kind of like the other ways that I have semi-hydro semi-hydro. But to do that, to have a water reservoir as well, a little bit heavier of a container, because right now it's just in this little glass jar, and you can see that this stake is a little bit heavier than the previous one. But in general, I'm pretty happy with this plant, and I've had no trouble with it. I want to knock on some wood because this plant, I don't know, I haven't had any trouble, and that makes me nervous. But I don't know if I should be nervous or not. I kind of wanted to propagate this, and that was my plan originally because of how crumpled and weird it came. But it's turning out pretty well, and I'm a little bit nervous about it becoming 6 feet tall because I don't know how I'm going to move that. I don't know how I'm going to move anything, to be honest with you, but I'm just going to continue to let it do its thing, and yeah, I love it. The next one I'll talk about is the Philodendron Columbia. Now, this plant has not made a single move since I bought it. Nothing has happened. It has the 3 original leaves, and that's it. And in the center, you can see that's where the next leaf is going to come out. I will say that in the last like 2-3 weeks, the little place where the new plant is going to come out, it looks taller to me, but I don't know if I'm just tripping or if I'm like manifesting it to come, if I'm willing it to come out. But I have this in the semi-hydro method, and I have been a little bit absent with the Flora Grow. As I've mentioned, this plant sits downstairs. It's not in my grow tent. It does have a grow light, and it is near a humidifier, but generally it's one of the biggest reasons why it's down there is because of how huge it is. And I mean, I haven't had any trouble, so there's nothing to like talk about really, and there's nothing bad to say really. It's just kind of there for right now. And last but not least is a plant that I cannot shut up about. It is the Philodendron El Chaco. This is a plant that I feel like was really popular in Plant Talk, and it wasn't something I was looking for necessarily, but I thought, why not? Because if I'm gonna order plants from ECUAGENERA, I like to at least order 2 or 3, because you have to take into account you're gonna pay for shipping anyway. So it's like if I bought a $25 plant and I paid $20 in shipping, it's kind of like I paid for a $40 plant. But if I get 3 plants and it's like $100, it's like, I don't know, I think it balances out. And I saw the El Chaco and I was like, I'll totally get that. And I've been loving this plant. It's just blowing up. It's just growing so quickly, and it's in the semi-hydro method as well. And I just have nothing bad to say about it. I just recently put it on a moss pole, and to be honest with you, I don't love it. I don't love the moss pole that I got. I ordered some off Amazon, and just like the process of putting it together was kind of annoying, and it's not as sturdy as I would like. But the reason why I got that one is because my plant is in semi-hydro. So normally I would probably use like the plastic stake or a piece of wood, but I don't know why I didn't use the plastic stake, to be honest with you. I feel like that would have been a lot easier. And honestly, I might switch it over, to be for real with you, because I don't love the moss pole. But we'll see what happens in the next couple of months. The newest leaf looks freaking gorgeous, and there's another leaf right there coming. You can see it coming out, and it's just been booming. And this plant also sits downstairs by a grow light with a humidifier, and it's on the top shelf because of how big it is. And I didn't really realize how big it was until I did my February favorites video, and I took it down from there because I never move my plants. Why would I move my plants? And I was like, wow, this is actually really massively huge. And I noticed it again today when I brought it upstairs to film this video, and I'm just in awe of it. I just think it's such a beautiful, beautiful plant. I can see why this plant was very hyped up on TikTok, and I'm really happy with purchasing it. I think it's really beautiful, and I'm so excited to watch this plant grow. I'm hoping that that moss pole, at least for the time being, does its job and helps me get some even bigger and more beautiful leaves. I want to thank you so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions at all about ECUAGENERA, the importing process, the acclimation process, please drop them in the comments below, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and I will see you in the next one.